just like to start by saying how wonderful it is to be here with all you beautiful people, all working together to get to the same end, that is a civilization for all of us, which we are entitled to as human beings. "92 years have passed since I was born in the barbarous year of 1923 in the coal mining community of Barnsley. As the light fades on my life, I am drawn towards the narrow, cobbled streets of my early life that were fraught with poverty and sickness. Back then, existence was a hard-scrabble battle for many Britons, because we lived in a primitive era when there was no NHS and good health care was a privilege that only the rich could afford. In the winter of my years, I don't reflect upon my boyhood with nostalgia. It's impossible, since I learned too early in my days that life for those who can't access a doctor or medicine due to financial circumstances can be a brief and sad affair. You see, in 1926, when I was a small lad, my sister Marion contracted TB and died in a workhouse infirmary because my dad, who had worked as a miner since the age of 12, was too poor to provide medical care for his daughter on a working class salary. Tragically, during my childhood in the early 20th century, thousands met their end like Marion. I can even remember as a boy hearing the piercing cries from open windows on our street, from people dying from cancer, who didn't have the dosh to buy morphine to ease their passage from life. Today, I am haunted by the inhuman manner in which my sister's illness was treated, or how the society of my youth believed that only the well-to-do or well-connected deserved medical care. That is why, after the brutality of the Second World War, my generation of ordinary people demanded that our nation create the NHS. We knew it was our only hope of making life better for ourselves, our parents, and our children. The people of my generation sacrificed so much during the Great Depression and through the Second World War. The NHS became our peacetime dividend. The creation of the NHS was also our solemn pledge to future generations that we would be a civilized nation that would treat all citizens as worthy of care and compassion. The NHS is for me as great as Magna Carta, because our public health service freed millions from the tyranny of sickness and poverty to move forward and lead productive lives. We must remember that the NHS is as essential to our nation's well-being as the armed forces are to protect us from foreign threats. We can't afford to leave the NHS in Tory hands for 5 more minutes, let alone 5 more years. We have to return the NHS back to being an institution for the people and by the people. But there is only one way we can ensure that the NHS remains a public institution. We have to vote Labour government. All other alternatives in this election will ensure that the NHS will become a golden goose for the hedge funds of the elite. In 21st century Britain, we are faced with so many problems from the social to economic. But I am confident that you, your children and your grandchildren can solve them and make our country a decent place to live for all its inhabitants. But if we don't have our health, we won't be able to remedy our nation's other ills, because we will be in a constant battle just to survive. In 1945, I was part of the Labour tide that raised all boats. With our heads on our hearts, my generation created the NHS. Today, in 2015, Labour will again be like a tide of compassion and pragmatism to raise all boats for this generation. We are going to send the Tories packing in May. But until then, Mr. Cameron, keep your mitts off our NHS. So I'm asking you, as an old man who has seen the world before the NHS existed, to please go out there and help fight to preserve our NHS. But the only way we can do that is to support a Labour government. Thank you. I really have great hope when I attend to these meetings, because I have a feeling that there's a real will for change, and you are all working so damn hard to make sure that we get it. I haven't lost hope. When I first started this campaign, I said to myself, Ed Miliband's going to be leading this country when I leave it. Thank you very much.